Imagine for a moment if you'd just been appointed as the new CEO for an organisation consulting into the transportation, mining and infrastructure sectors in Australia, sectors that on the face of it were seeing explosive growth. And yet you looked at your own numbers, your own sales and marketing pipeline, and you saw that both of those were flat. Now that's the scenario that faced George Spink when he was appointed the new Managing Director of Halcro Consulting, a global consulting and engineering practice. And over the next few minutes, you're going to hear about how George not only faced that challenge, but brought his team together, leveraging Math Marketing's Funnel Camp and Funnel Logic methodologies to drive transformational change within the business. I'm going to join you at the end of the session to sum up what you've heard, and I'm sure you're going to find that this a really engaging discussion. Cheers.
Yeah, look, I was a managing director for Halcro, based in Australia, and eventually Halcro was acquired by CH2M Hill. Halcro is an engineering and design company and purely focused on the design side of engineering infrastructure, so maritime, mines, rail, etc. When I first joined Halcro in about January 2010, Halcro were largely focused on selling hours, selling their services to those who wanted to buy them for infrastructure. My concern was that we were in a very competitive market and the brand was not well known within Australia. When I started looking at the marketing literature, there was virtually only just brochures and there was no actual external positioning or representation of the brand. Largely it was relied on a few conference papers and some brochures, and they mailed out a calendar once a year to their clients. Looking at, and the other issue was the revenue was okay, but we weren't doing well in terms of really positioning and winning some large jobs. We're very much reliant on small jobs. So I took about, with the help of Math Marketing, I took about the help or the process of trying to position the brand in a broader context and really trying to find customers that were looking for our services. The discussion started around what we did well to try and understand the organisation, and then with the help of Math Marketing, and I got in Math Marketing because I'd used them previously, with the help of Math Marketing, we went through a facilitated process of understanding what our customers or clients needed, and in particular where their problems were. That was new thinking for Halcro organisation. Again, they were very much about solving technical problems and hadn't much thought about the customer's problems. Once you started getting to think of from a customer or client's perspective, they then started to see the market slightly differently and how they may position in that market. Once we went through that process, we then started to build a plan that allowed us to look at how we addressed those customer problems, how we responded to those customer problems, and how we then started to solve them and position the market to solve those problems. Look, the first one in my mind was getting absolute alignment in the management team for Halcro in Australia. Before I had Brett and your team on board and involved, I was largely what I call affectionately herding cats. I had guys going in different directions, focused on their little area and not selling the whole of Halcro. By the end of the first workshop, we really had clear focus on what we did well as a company and collectively, and that was starting to get the management team and the rest of the organisation trying to behave as one organisation. So that was the first one, really getting us focused on what that problem was that we need to work on. Secondly, it allowed us to start then, with the help of Math Marketing, really start to get crystallised and granular around the markets and the customers we should be working on that sat into that problem. So once you knew our problem we're going to solve, that we solved best, and that customers had, we then really got aligned to who we're going to pursue and work with to position. And then third, I saw as in the maturity of discussions we're having around with those customers and how we positioned and ultimately started to win some work around solving that customer's problem. So it was helping us get aligned, helping us define and segment the market and where we should focus, and then helping us really get traction and execute on positioning and winning work. When I first got involved with Brett through Math Marketing, and we've had a number of years together, the key difference I see that he does that has I guess made me continue to stick with the Math Marketing plan and their approach is he makes you walk in the customer's shoes. He makes you understand your customer's problems and how you solve that problem. And when you start getting behind that thought process and asking your management team or your team that's involved in the discussion, what are your customers' problems and which ones can you solve best? When you really get crystal and focused on that customer problem, suddenly you see a whole room go from a disparate room with different opinions on what you can do internally to being very focused on that's actually what our customers are worried about. That's what they're telling us. When that moment happens, the rest starts to fall in place. So that to me was a big difference between Math Marketing and others that I've worked with, is their ability to get you outside your organisation and walk in your customers' shoes.
Well, thanks, George, for sharing your experiences with us as you drove real transformational change within the Halcro business. There are a couple of key points that came through all of the discussion. That whole dialogue around moving from being Halcro-centric to buyer-centric was fundamental to the change that occurred, as was bringing the whole team together, the sales organisation, the marketing organisation, and the delivery organisations, getting them aligned around that same plan, and then ultimately being able to present that plan on one page. Again, if you're going to get the team aligned and to some degree on the same page, we're firm believers in having a plan that's on one page. So the question is now for you is where to next? And there is an opportunity right now to actually drive performance within your own business. I encourage you to click on the link and reach out to us, and we'll have a discussion around driving growth within your own business. I wish you well for the rest of your day.